Greetings to all of you. Yeah, we are back again to have the conversation. I know that the last video I tried to do, the reaction video, did not work. The quality was horrendous. So I just thought, I should record, another one just to provide an overview, give some of the main highlights that you possibly might have missed, because I tried watching that video myself and it was absolutely terrible. So basically, um, the title of that video was about the African, uh, political, and what I really wanted to do with that was some of the things I'm seeing globally in terms of politics, and also, different social movements that have emerged and what I think they mean for us, especially in terms of how we align ourselves politically. I think this will be important in the coming years. So that video, I started by sort of laying the foundation in terms of my political position. You know, uh, I would say I am a Pan-Africanist. I mean, I come from the Pan-African tradition. I was trained in the Pan-African tradition. And, most people don't know the history of Pan-Africanism even, because you're talking about people like Henry Sylvester and Blyden, these are the people who were the early influences of Pan-Africanism. The first Pan-African conference was in the UK in 1900. So the Pan-African movement as we know it today was very much initiated in the African diaspora, in the US, in the UK, and Jamaica and other places. And, it, I would say it merged in a way with the anti-colonial struggle in the continent. And a lot of our leaders then started to engage with people like Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Du Bois, and all. That's just a brief history, but I think it's important to understand that, because you would then understand why we talk about a global collaboration of African people towards securing our interests. And you see, this is what this whole idea is based on. That the assumption is that all of us, as people of African descent, globally, wherever we may be, share the same interests. I don't know how real that is in terms of shared, because if I look at it objectively, for me, it makes sense that, I mean, we are the majority of the world's population, so many of us, and we are all over. And I think coming together gives us so much power. But the issue is the shared interests, you know, which reminds me of, uh, the formation of the Organization of African Unity, which is the African Union today. But I mean, those who know the history understand that Kwame Nkrumah, the leader of Ghana, suggesting that Africa should actually be one country with different regions. Not a lot of people agreed with that, you know. There were some who agreed with it But ultimately, the point is we could agree. Those politicians representing those countries who are in you know, that conference that led to the formation of the OAU, they couldn't agree. You know, they couldn't agree, and it was just a few of them. So it then makes me wonder and think, like, how realistic is it to say we need to try and get billions of Africans globally on the same page? It's a bit of a challenge. And also because our interests have just moved in different directions over the years, I actually think we had a better chance of establishing Africa as a federation in um, in those early years. Now it has become even harder. Our interests have moved so far apart, you know, and then the kind of political leadership we have doesn't help either. These are not people who are going to move anything in our. They just have a lot to talk about. They're not going to do anything. I have absolutely no faith in African politicians. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I don't even want to get into that right now. But basically, I was just explaining my political, positionality as an African. And I think it's important. Also in the context of Ubuntu awakening. I think I touched briefly on this in the previous video. That, the concept of Ubuntu has been so abused. Now it is at the point where, those who abuse us as Africans try to use that concept to manipulate us, into accepting the abuse. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not with that. That for me is not Ubuntu. And I gave a perfect example of what I think about when I'm talking about Ubuntu, because this speaks to our humanity and our aspirations. You understand? When I say our humanity, I mean who we are, our being, and what our desires are. You understand? I made an example of Steve Biko, that I felt, and Black consciousness were the true embodiment of what Ubuntu is. Biko dealt with everyone, every human being, you know, exactly. He just reciprocated the energy, you know. I mean, the apartheid police, he told them, if you punch me, I will punch you, you know. If you talk to me like you're talking to a human being, I will reciprocate the same. And I'm the same. I tend to be inclined to that same way of thinking. You're not going to mistreat me and then I'm going to treat you well. No, sense. Makes no sense. So it's just that balance, how energy flows. You have to be willing to what you give. Like, it's so amazing to me. It's so amazing to me how whites are so fragile, you know? I mean, just a little thing that you try to start a dialogue about racial issues, all of a sudden they offended, they touched. But they forget that they actually created the system of racism and white supremacy. They actually created it and created entire systems and used the law and you know used different devices to actually do harm to us. I'm not talking about talking. They getting offended just by you talking, about race and racism and the issues around it. I'm saying they designed entire ideas that said we are not humans. So I don't understand this fragility. And then now talking about reverse racism. Are you joking? Honestly, yeah, we are too nice as Africans. That's all I can say. Because there is no way you are going to say let's peacefully coexist after what these people did to us. So it's just that thing of, yeah, I'm a human too, and I should have the agency to express myself as I so wish, and I should have control over my own environment. Um, and no other foreign parties should be dominating my environment. You understand? I mean, it is absolutely pitiful that European uh, governments and corporations dominate the African continent. And then now you have the Chinese also trying to come in and get a piece. Everyone is trying to come in and get a piece. We don't have control of our environment. And I think it's absolutely shameful. You know, I'm also going to talk about how, all these Africans who are against the promoting of African interests. Like these Africans who will either call themselves conservatives or what is this, liberals or whatever, and I don't understand it. They speak against themselves, basically, politically. They sound like white people. And not just any white people, they sound like right wingers, you know? And I don't understand that. I just don't get it. How you can speak against yourself politically. So I'm not with that. If you are that person, no, you're not going to like me. And I probably not going to like you either. So I said black consciousness is the true expression of Ubuntu. Us asserting our humanity, asserting ourselves. And then I also explained, this idea of loyalties and where my loyalties lie, that charity begins at home. My first loyalty is to myself, my ancestors, my family, my community, my nation. That order. So, yeah, I am not, going to, put aside my interests to to me. There's no way. I don't care how you try to shame me. Look, I don't care if it's Julius Malema. If I feel he doesn't represent my interests, I'm not rocking with him. And if you're an EFF member and this offends you, you know, so I'm not sacrificing myself for any of these politicians who are not loyal, but loyal to themselves and their families. Like my experience is in no way the same as any of those politicians. All those black politicians who try to, leverage us with race, so we must vote for them. Your lived experience, as regular people, our lived experience is nothing like theirs. Their families don't have the same problems that you have in your family. Their children don't have the same issues that your children have. So, no. If I feel we don't share interests now, you understand? So, my support for you is contingent on how much I think you are looking out for my interests. As an ordinary African man, South African man, black man, if your interests align with mine, it's cool. But if they don't, I'm not. Don't care who you are. Whether it's Malema or Rise Mzansi or Action SA, all of these things. Well, I'm very clear about the DA. And obviously, I don't understand, again, black people who are in the DA. The DA is very clear to me. It's very much right-wing. It represents the interests of the white minority in South Africa. and then they have recruited some blacks so that they can increase their numbers. Because I want the people in the DA must understand this is all you are. You are there to increase the numbers so that they can advance their interests properly. It's got nothing to do with you, unfortunately. And this has been evident. A lot of black people have left the DA, prominent black people. I mean, look, the way I see it, if you can have a problem with Musi, Barack Obama, Maimane, I mean, the most non-racial of the most non-racial, and then the DA wants to tell us they are non-racial. Come on, man. If you can have a problem with Musi, Barack Obama, Maimane, I mean, how are you going to even deal with me? Because I'm sure you can tell, yeah, me and Musi are different. But I like the brother, I think he would make a great leader. I'm just not sure about the sort of non-racial position, how that would impact us. But I think the brother he could be a great leader, and a leader of integrity too. It's just, hey, European interests, the interests of the Western world. How would that look? I'm not sure about that. So, yeah, it's clear to me that black people in the DA, I don't know what's happening there. And that's why the title of my video, was Beware European Propaganda. Because the only way you could convince a black person to join the DA, it has to be propaganda, yo. I mean, you have done some mind effing there, That's a mind F, you know. I mean, that your brain has to be turned upside down, you know. But yeah, so that's it. That's why I started, and I explained a little bit of my background in terms of the royal family I come from, and why really I cannot agree with some of the ideas, man, that some of the politicians are saying, Like the whole idea Julius Malema was talking about in terms of Africa didn't have borders in pre-colonial times. I think I have pretty much laid that to rest. There is no way you're going to have a kingdom and you don't have a defined territory for it. You don't have borders. I mean, that's why those kingdoms had armies, whether it's in Songhai or the kingdom of Ghana or Mapungubia or wherever. All the kingdoms we talk about that were in Africa had armies to secure their borders. And they went to war with their neighbors every now and then for different reasons. It's not like we're just sitting here holding hands and singing the whole time. That is just a romanticizing of our history. And I'm not there either. I want us to be real. I want us to be real. It's a human thing to be in conflict with your neighbors for various reasons. If I am your neighbor, from time to time we will step on each other's toes. And, to a certain extent, just by virtue of us being in close proximity to one another. I mean, think about this in your relationship. Let's say what they call romantic relationship. Girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, whatever. That person who is the closest to you, you are most likely to step on each other's toes, offend each other and all of that, more than anyone else, just by proximity, So, different